Rick Horrow keeping score with some of the more entertaining, interesting, and business-oriented folks in sports, and we've got somebody who does all of those. He's the founder and CEO of MVP Index, which just had a very interesting financing victory. His name is Shawn Spieth. You may recognize the name. We'll get around to that in a minute. So, Shawn, first, talk about the company MVP Index, what you do, how you do it, how you kind of got into that space, and then, kudos on the $7 million round of Series A investment that you just closed.
Well, Rick, thanks. Appreciate the opportunity here, and happy to do both of those. It was an interesting process to get through this round of funding. We learned a lot from it, and there have been a lot of opportunities that kind of led us to the way we closed this round, and I'll explain that in a moment. But to your first question, our mission as a company is to create the standard for social media measurement and valuation in sports and entertainment. And what that means is we're trying to collect everything we can in terms of social conversations that are relevant in sports on the major social platforms. If we collect them all, then we can rank them and index them. And if we do that effectively, then we can value the assets, whether they're brand ambassadors, they're athletes, they're entertainers, they're teams, brands, or venues and events. As long as we've collected them all and we can compare them to each other, compare them within their peer groups, and put a relative ranking on them, then it allows us to get to valuation, which is ultimately what all of those marketing assets are after, and then the sponsors and the partners who are writing the checks to use them as brand ambassadors and part of their marketing mix.
The beauty of this is, and we'll get to this now, and then we'll segue into it later, I assume you come to emotional and psychological grips being by far and away the distant second celebrity in a household of Spieths. So the secret for everybody to know is that Shawn clearly is a quintessential businessman, but the other thing he did in life is father probably the best golfer on the planet. What's it like to create a company that has as a laboratory for social media development somebody who is certainly one phone call away or one dinner table conversation away, and the value proposition for both of you must be immense.
Well, it is kind of nice to fly under the radar a little bit the last couple of years, Rick, with the company and individually. And at the same time, Jordan's 3-year now plus career path has given us, as you said, it's a great petri dish, a great test environment in a lot of ways for us to talk to marketers and agencies and brands that invest in sports, that market in sports. And we were able to do that, frankly, that we built this company because of the opportunities we learned about. Kyle Nelson, co-founder, along with me, and we spent a good 6, 7, 8 months asking questions of brands and agencies and marketers about social and valuation and how they're leveraging digital and social within sports. So we learned a lot. We had an opportunity to talk to people because of Jordan's opportunities, early success, to probably expedite some of those conversations, have a little credibility going into some environments that really sparked an interest for maybe not the reason we were there for, but it allowed us to evolve in time together and really learn some important things for our business.
Shawn Spieth, founder, CEO, MVP Index, and I will attest to the fact that knowing you for plus 3 years, the first set of meetings, it wasn't a secret, but Jordan Spieth doesn't drive the conversations. Your technical acumen in a space that is ever broadening and widening drives those conversations. But on the other hand, I assume with Lagardère and Jay Danzy and working with Jordan's agent side, it's good for them to draw on your knowledge on how to get ahead of the curve in social media as well.
Well, absolutely. One of the motivations I had and for helping put this company together and founding it, co-founding it with Kyle, was to help young athletes, help young talent, athletes, entertainers, musicians, maximize their value, not just for themselves, their brand value, not just for themselves, but for the partners they go to market with. And people that believe in them, companies that believe in them, and support them to either get going or to expand their brands together, make sure that the alignment makes sense so that they pick the right partners in both directions, so that it's authentic. They can grow it in a way that works for everybody and that they all enjoy it. I mean, we in this business in sports and entertainment, you really have to love what you're doing to maximize your performance, and you have to be around people that you really love to be around from a business perspective. And that was really the primary motivation from my perspective, along with seeing the size of the opportunity and being able to go through that with Jordan, with his team, and help him, maximize that to the extent possible within some constraints. And constraints are always for athletes trying to maximize their performance in their profession first and foremost. Everybody's got different styles and different levels of engagement that they're comfortable with, both publicly and then socially. So that's a fun piece of the puzzle as well, to try to figure out for the talent, because there's still people that have personalities and they fit in different places with different types of partners in different sports and in different demographic segments in different regions of the world or the country. It's all unique, and that's been one of the really fun parts of building this business.
Fun, blessing and curse, however, on the prolific expansion of social media, I assume. I know a lot of agents and brand managers and corporations would like to push the artificial mute button and just to make sure that all of the comments, most of the comments from some of the guys immediately evaporate. You have the ability to parse through all of that and see what the effect is on Q scores, on likability, on awareness, and we'll do some of that during Power 100 in a couple of months. What's kind of the advice you give, or do you feel compelled to kind of get out in that space? Are there things that you can say to athletes and agents where they'll actually listen based on experience?
Well, I think based on the data that we see, best practices just emerge within certain segments, whether it's a brand category or a sport or a demographic that a certain marketer is after. Best practices, they bubble to the top. They become very evident. We search for certain brands or certain keywords, certain phrases, and what works is obvious, and what doesn't work well is obvious, because we look at the conversation. It's about engagement, and then about, as you said, Rick, sentiment. What's the sentiment around the athlete or the team or the songwriter or the TV show or the movie? Who does it align with in terms of brands, which is really what we're about, because the brands are the ones that are writing the checks to use these marketing assets. We have all that data, and that's the hard part, is collecting all the data, and it's current. So it's near real time. I mean, every day, our rankings refresh. Our 28,000 plus entities that we're following get re-ranked, but we see what's happening in the conversations around them with over 1.5 billion fans, followers, influencers that buy product and have preferences for different types of sports, different types of events and venues. So we really see what's important to them. So it becomes really easy to show the athletes or the marketers or the brands what works, what doesn't work. And it's not really necessarily just good versus bad, but it's really what are the little tweaks that you make to really take off with a campaign or authenticity, and bringing multiple types of brand ambassadors into the conversation, when it may be a football player that loves to play golf, or a baseball player who's a great tennis player, and you bring them into those sports within a brand campaign, and that crossover creates a lot of opportunity.
So a lot of opportunity.
The data. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say the data's there. It's big data, though, so you have to be able to pull it out in simple, easy ways and segments and bite-sized chunks that really make sense for each of the users. And that's really what we're focused on right now, is to automate that process and make it easy to pull out what's important from the dashboard or from a set of reports for each of the users.
Well, and that's really one of the keys, I guess, as you interpret, consolidate, and bifurcate the data and put it to work. Now that we know that within a couple of years, according to the Knight Foundation's studies that have been done, there are going to be more millennials that are using iPhones by far than watching television, mobile phones. And so how do you monetize all this? It's nice to do good, and obviously this Series A investment reflects a very significant business plan. Is it advertising? Is it corporate involvement? Is it subscription? What does the future of the social media world look like as a business from your perspective?
Well, I think it can be all of those that you mentioned. Our primary focus right now is to have the majority of the brands that drive sponsorship and advertising spend in sports and entertainment as clients. Allows us to become the de facto standard. How do you monetize that? Well, you sell data. So there's a subscription model. It's a SaaS platform. There's data available, and we sell that on a monthly or an annual or a multi-year agreement subscription. And if the client has the wherewithal and the talent and the time and the team to go ahead and pull the information that's relevant for them and the value out of the data, they can do it on their own. They can use the agencies that they're already aligned with, who are sometimes doing, for the most part, doing the activations and the campaigns for them. And in some cases, they ask us to make sense of the data and provide the reports. So from a monetization perspective, we want recurring revenue. The subscription, recurring SaaS subscription is the core of that. After that is repeatable reports and dashboards that are templated so that we can provide similar types of solutions for customers within a similar brand segment or within a similar industry segment. Most of those want the same kinds of information. And then also provide different types and different levels of access and data to different levels of decision makers within an organization. CMO may just want some alerts on things that are significant movers, whereas the activation team wants data today and tomorrow night, about how the campaign's going and where they can adjust and really optimize it based on the results that we're seeing from the whole environment, the whole ecosystem around that campaign and that brand and that marketing effort.
Obviously, the whole key is telling it like it is and telling it in a more sophisticated and comprehensive way than anybody else has. However, don't you find it the least bit ironic that the data will be interpreted by a whole bunch of different people and a whole bunch of different advice, and you happen to have sired probably the one person who may be the saving grace for golf, let alone the human race? I mean, there's nothing wrong with that kid, and he is unbelievable, and he's probably the least the least likely to have to provide any advice that you give. What do you think of that irony?
Well, there are everybody's unique, as I said earlier. Some people want to go practice their craft and make a living doing that and minimize their outside involvement with, potential partners, with brands, with the media, et cetera. Other people absolutely thrive on that. And you use the context of golf, and people like Ricky Fowler and Bubba kind of surface as guys that just love, and John Daly just love to engage with their audience. There are others that don't want to engage at all, and that's just fine. This is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to build a brand for each of those individual brand ambassadors or teams, to grow the value of that brand, and then do what they want with it in terms of leverage opportunity. So yeah, it's a little ironic, but what we didn't set out to help them make a decision as to how they use their brand value, just to show them what it is and expose opportunities that they can exploit and or grow if they choose to, and then give all that data to the marketers and the brand marketers, and both the representatives as marketers and then the brands as marketers to allow them to go figure out, what deals make sense and at what dollar levels.
Final question the world wants to know. At what point did your kid start beating the heck out of you on the golf course, and at what point did you know he was going to be something special?
Well, those are two different times, unfortunately.
Go answer both.
He started beating the heck out of me at about 12 years old, and it was a couple of years later where it became evident that he had a chance to be really good. And it wasn't until very recently that we had any idea it could happen this fast to this level. But all three of those, I guess, Rick, are really good things and were really fun times and experiences to go through.
Well, fun times, but also he's a great athlete, but even more important, a great ambassador to the sport, and I'm sure a great son. And your company is amazing. We'll be doing a lot more in the future. Obviously, Shawn Spieth, MVP, founder and CEO. We'll talk to you soon. Rick Horrow, speak with you in a couple of minutes.